Welcome, Wolverine Nation, to week Thanksgiving. That's what we're going to call it this week. Week Thanksgiving of Waiver Wire. I'm Jake Camille.
I'm Victor Torres.
And I'm Matthew Barturin.
Guys, hold on. Before we get started, we all got the jerseys on. Thanksgiving football. Tradition.
We're feeling a little festive today,
Yeah,
Hope your turkey bowl goes well on Thursday.
Hopefully. Everyone wants to have fun on a good Thanksgiving. Great matchups all around the board this week. Guys, last week was great. Saints won. Dolphins didn't.
Because we had a bye week.
Exactly.
We can't lose.
But great week from everyone. Happy Chris Olave went off, but
This guy.
a lot of teams, a lot of great games. Eagles Colts, which was a surprising game.
Yeah.
I thought that game was gonna be
Are the Eagles the 2020 Steelers? What are we thinking?
They are. There's been a curse.
they are.
There's been a curse since 2006 when the Colts won the Super Bowl, that the undefeated team, like going through past 5 weeks, has lost in NFC Championship before, etc., etc. You guys know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I think we got it.
Yeah. So guys, great week of football. Vikings got destroyed by the Cowboys.
That was bad.
That was
That was
horrible.
bad.
Yeah, it was very bad. But before we get sidetracked, let's get into our pickups. Victor, who's your pickup this week?
So I'm picking up Samaje Perine. This is literally like a rent-a-player. Because Mixon might be hurt. He might have a concussion. That's what's going around. He left the game against the... Who did they play, Steelers?
Yes,
Yeah,
they played
against the
Steelers.
Steelers with a concussion. So, assuming Mixon's out for a week or two, Samaje Perine is getting all the carries. He's normally their receiving back. He had 3 receiving touchdowns.
30
against the Steelers.
points last week.
30
which was crazy.
30 points off the bench. So
Exactly.
he got 11 carries for. I don't think he got like 30 yards. Maybe he was not running the ball well. But it's the Steelers. They're not.
Receiving game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And they
like-
play the Titans this week.
Exactly. That Titans defense is pretty solid. So, but again, Samaje Perine is that receiving. He's always been like the receiving back for the Bengals. So I think he's got all the receptions, all the carries. It's due for a big game. This is literally like your 2-week pickup. Like if Samaje Perine is not rostered in many leagues, this is your 2-week pickup. Just get your guy, put him in your flex, put him in your starting running back, because this is the part of the year. All your running backs are digressing. All your running backs are getting hurt. This is your guy. Samaje Perine's a good pickup, especially if you have Mixon in.
I 100% agree. Another handcuff backfield in the NFL. Before I get it's a great pickup. The guy gets a ton of receiving targets. Volume wins fantasy games.
Three receiving touchdowns is that's
Unheard of.
Yeah,
Unheard of.
Unless your name's Alvin.
Exactly. But Matt, why don't I want to receive? We're talking about receiving touchdowns. I want to receive your pick right now. Who's your pick?
That's really creative, Jake. I really admire that. My pickup's Isaiah Pacheco from the Chiefs.
Love it.
All right, so 100 yards last week, 107 to be exact. Last 2 weeks has had 16 and 15 carries. So establishing himself as kind of that, lead back. Even though he doesn't get all the receiving targets, which those go to Jerick McKinnon, but I think as a pure rusher, they lean on Isaiah Pacheco a lot, and I think more and more he's gonna finally get that first touchdown since week 1, because he doesn't have a touchdown since week 1. But he's getting the yards, he's getting the volume. He just needs a touchdown to kind of boost his, production. But I think going forward, I think him being the lead back for the Chiefs, which is an insane offense. I think that you should pick him up.
I like what you're saying about the lead rusher, because everybody on TikTok thinks there's this elite football analyst. I saw a video of Isaiah Pacheco and how he hits a hole. The guy hits the hole hard. He is super shifty.
Great
So
runner.
shifty, fast, and just an elite runner.
And on the Chiefs offense.
I was gonna say, what else do you need on the Chiefs? That's what they had. That's what they've had. Kelsey, Hill, Nicole Hardman. All these fast guys, all these shifty guys have dominated in their offense. Pacheco finally getting his touches, dominating in the offense. And I saw something else on TikTok. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his snap share at the start of the year was up here, and he gets 2% of the snap. 2% of the snaps since week.
And you know what? It's kind of sad
5.
because I really like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he's
cannot.
such a good player.
Can't
but
say I agree. I've never liked Helaire.
I
I
like
like him. I've liked this story
But-
since coming from LSU, smaller back.
No, you just like LSU. You're a Saints
I
fan.
don't like LSU. I'm a
Saints,
UM guy.
this is Saints
I'm a UM
fan.
guy, all the way
You
through.
were wearing Clemson at the UM game this week. Don't lie to me.
All right, whatever. Well, before we get too sidetracked, let's get into my pickup.
Oh, this guy.
Now, I know what everyone's seeing. I'm wearing a Marshawn Lattimore jersey. I'm picking up his teammate. He's only rostered in 19% of leagues. Juwan Johnson. Now, he's a tight end. I know you guys are going to like this pick.
That's my pick. Tight ends. That's my guy.
I know you guys are going to like this because it's Saints play, Saints bias, but actually, he's the number 8 tight end in fantasy football. He's only rostered in 90% of leagues. Here are the past 5 weeks. Against Arizona, 20 points. Vegas, whatever, dud, 4 points. The past 3 weeks, he's had 12, 15, and 13. That's a very reliable option from tight ends in fantasy football. In a year that tight ends have been very bad. And also, this Saints offense is very inconsistent. And he's the guy who goes down in the flats, who in the red zone especially, we saw this past week, and especially in the week against the Cardinals, we had 2 touchdowns. But the past 3 weeks, he's had 1 touchdown, over 4 targets a game. And he's the guy, you go to the flat, you just dump him off, and he's a former receiver. So he can make a play down the field, and he can make a few guys miss, especially those big old linebackers. So I think this guy, not going to be Travis Kelce, obviously, but a guy, if you need a tight end,
you need your 12 points. At this point in the year, Dallas Goedert just got hurt. Like, if your tight end isn't getting the 30 that Kelce got, where he puts up his, once again, 3 touchdown game against the Chargers, by the way, super sick. But if your guy's not putting up 3 touchdowns, you need at least a double-digit performance. And as you just saw, Juwan Johnson, he's been doing it.
He's been very consistent.
That Saints offense is super inconsistent.
That's
Andy Dalton, he's a veteran. He trusts his young guys. His young guys? Is Juwan Johnson?
Juwan Johnson's relatively young.
I meant reliable tight end, but Juwan Johnson's young too.
He's a younger guy, and he's also won this tight end room with Taysom Hill becoming
the gadget. He's the
gadget. He's back to the gadget player, not tight end anymore. And Adam Troutman's been suffering injuries with knees, concussions. So he's the number 1 tight end 100% in this
I'm
Saints
picking
offense.
Juwan John, son.
I like that. Juwan John, son. I like that one, Victor. Now, guys, let's get into our starts. Victor, who's your start?
So I'm starting the guy that probably put up 30 points on every bench in America this weekend. Joshua Palmer had 30 points against the Chiefs with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Now, excuse me. Now, Mike Williams did get hurt halfway through the game.
Of course he did.
So, realistically, Josh Palmer... Of course he did. Wow, that was weird. Of course, Josh Palmer got moved back up to wide receiver 2, but even at his wide... So, he was playing like wide receiver 2.5 this week, and he's put up 30 points on, like... I mean, I don't think anybody here... Can either of you tell me that you were like, oh yeah, Joshua Palmer is going to go off with two of the best...
I didn't.
One of the best actually, everyone had him.
He literally was probably the most benched player in America this week, and he popped off. He had a 30-point game against the Chiefs, which bad secondary. It's great. There's like one good player on that secondary, and he goes to Arizona. They travel to Arizona this week, or they play Arizona. I don't know where they travel.
They just allowed 38 points by.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Debo and Ayuk.
Ayuk had 2.
Ayuk
had 2 catches for 2 touchdowns and 20 yards. That is 4 points of receiving yards and catches, 12 points of touchdowns. So I mean, this Cardinals secondary isn't the greatest outside of Buda Baker.
Yeah, you know. You've seen a lot on Twitter and everything.
He doesn't like to lose.
Buda Baker hates losing, and he's talking bad about that Cardinals secondary. So maybe there's some troubles, and maybe they have a rough game against Joshua Palmer. He goes off again because Mike Williams is most likely out once again. So wide receiver 2, Keenan Allen's gonna get all the coverage. Yeah, he's gonna get all the coverage. I mean, they'll have Buda Baker shadowing the elite receiver, and then you got Joshua Palmer wide open down the sideline, touchdown. Justin Herbert still got that arm. He's not playing well, but he's got that arm.
He's not playing well, and also
with
fantasy managers with Justin Fields, they should. Justin Fields. I had Justin Fields, but he's with an injury now, and I might have to start Justin Herbert this week. So, I mean, I think it's a very good start.
I also completely forgot to mention his last 4 games that he's played: 12 targets, 10 targets, 8 targets, 10 targets against the Chiefs. What do we love here? Volume. Volume's key.
That's what wins you fantasy games. Now, Matt. Who's the guy that's going to get you volume this week to give you big-time points?
Well, my start, Jake, is Antonio Gibson.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Now, he has had a big share with Brian Robinson in terms of carries.
Yep.
In a run-heavy offense in Washington. So last week he had 18 carries. Brian Robinson had 15 carries. Now, Antonio Gibson had 72 yards and some catches too. So that amounted to probably I think 13 points-ish. And the week before he had 14. So I think after a good last 2 weeks, and he's kind of, trying to establish himself obviously as the more of a lead back than Ryan.
Yeah, he's trying. Obviously, we saw that Gibson had that start of the year fall off where he got put he was on the punt team. I mean,
yeah.
So
no, no, and then so now in the backfield he's actually playing more efficiently than Brian Robinson is. And now this week he plays a weak Atlanta run defense.
Yeah.
So I think those two things combined, I think that he's a good start for this week.
For sure, it's solid. You
Yeah,
know,
definitely. And the past 2 years, he's been a very reliable fantasy option. Just this year with the addition of Brian Robinson to the Commanders team, it's been tough. But he's a great back, especially with pass catching. He's a very good pass catcher back. That's what gets him most of his points in fantasy football. I mean,
for sure.
Great pick.
And I know that I'm not sure who the Commanders play this week, but I know that Heineke, not the best quarterback. They're going to rely on the run. And let's say they're playing from behind, which we know that Commanders' defense is good. But let's say they're playing from behind, which more often than not they will be. You got to put in your receiving back. Catch the ball just because you're trying to get down the field. Everybody's got to get reps. I think Gibson's at receiving.
Yeah,
so it's
his
good.
dual threat ability definitely gets him a
Dual
lot of
threat, that's a
upside.
good term.
For sure.
That's a great. I love that. Receiving backs are one of my favorite players in the NFL. Every single receiving back I love. Now, my start is not a receiving back. It's a very running back. He's a running back. Now, I know a lot of fantasy managers aren't going to agree with me here. I mean, maybe they do because last week he had 3.7 points and 8 total yards and 10 carries, which is abysmal. Abysmal, Matt. I love that. That's your word, abysmal. But it's Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce is coming off a very bad week, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks before that, 25, 18, 20, 15, 14, 13,
The
12.
guy was insane. He was running
He's been
fantasy
going
football.
crazy.
Yeah.
And he
He's
plays
the
it.
ball.
He's running the football.
He's running the football like a running back should. Now, you guys should know this. The Dolphins' run defense,
Hurts my soul with Christian Wilkins on my chest.
they're
It's
not
bad.
the best. It's not a
bad,
very
right?
good rush defense, and I think he's gonna run all over them. But I think the Dolphins will win, obviously, because the Texans are a terrible franchise. But the Dameon Pierce is gonna run all over it, especially when they give him the ball. Now they give him the ball 10 times this week, but every time before that he's been getting 15 more touches, and he's I try hard running back as all these people.
That was insane.
I don't know
You
why
saw
people
that.
try hard running back. It's the NFL. You're supposed to try hard. He's getting paid millions.
It's a job.
This guy breaks tackles. He doesn't get touchdowns. He doesn't get a lot of touchdowns, but he gets so much volume.
The Texans don't
Yeah.
score a lot of touchdowns.
Exactly. He hasn't gotten a touchdown since week 5. But
But I think the situation where they get to the goal line, who's gonna get them goal line touches?
He is, and-
Do they have another running back? Rex Burkhead?
Philip Lindsay, I think, maybe?
No, he hasn't been there in like 3 years. Rex Burkhead,
think
maybe.
Rex
Rex Burkhead.
Burkhead's
I
definitely
think Rex
there,
Burkhead might fall over and die. He's pretty old soon. So you know. I think,
Well,
Okay.
I mean,
I think it's
hopefully,
Dameon Pierce time.
hopefully he runs all over Miami's defense and maybe gets a touchdown, which I hope so because he's in my fantasy starting lineups, obviously. I mean, guys, we're talking about people who are going to score tons of touchdowns, get a lot of targets. Who are the guys that are going to get locked down?
Locked down. So I'm going with Aaron Rodgers here. This is a little bit of a weird one, but I think I'm just kind of basing this off the fact that if you drafted Rodgers, this is back-to-back MVP. Why would you not draft Rodgers? You're in a situation where you weren't ready to maybe I need another quarterback. Why would you need another quarterback? You have Aaron Rodgers, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. He hasn't played good, and by no means is that his fault, but he has underperformed to a huge extent. The Packers receivers are not good, and I understand that Christian Watson is finally coming up to himself, but the Packers have super underperformed, and they play Philly this week. I understand that he has had back-to-back weeks against some pretty good defenses. Rodgers has put up, for once this year, has put up Rodgers' numbers. But I think against that Philly defense, which the Packers offense, they go run first. They rely super heavily on that run game and that screen game, which I've noticed a lot. That's how Aaron Jones gets his points.
Yep.
They live off that screen game. The Philadelphia defense has been phenomenal against the run and the screen. If they can't get the run or the screen going, and they have to send their super young, they're just a bad receiving core down the field, it's not really a good recipe for success because that secondary is ridiculous. There's 4 starters on that secondary who are Pro Bowl worthy. So I think Rodgers, I love Rodgers. I think super talented quarterback, obviously, but there's just no possible way where he should be a starter. It's just a bad recipe for it. So hello. Randall Cobb had 80 yards this week. That's not reliable.
Yeah, this matchup and the players around him, it's not going to be a good season for Packers fans. Maybe they turn it around. Maybe
Hope they
turn
do.
it around.
I love Aaron Rodgers.
I love the guy.
I'd love to see him choke in the playoffs again.
Well, he can't do that unless his surrounding cast steps up. Matt,
Which they just haven't done
which
it.
they haven't been doing. But Matt, who's the guy who hasn't been performing, especially this week?
So my sit, it's kind of a risky one.
We take
My
risks.
sit is Dalvin Cook.
Ooh,
So-
okay.
So he plays the New England Patriots this week. The New England Patriots, arguably the best defense in the NFL, right? I mean,
Yes.
obviously they're not that great a team. Their offense is pretty poor, but their defense is
Stout.
amazing. And Dalvin Cook just came off of that blowout loss like we were talking about earlier to the Cowboys. 40-3. Like they had one field goal the whole entire game.
It was actually the first drive. I think they did not score after the first drive. Is what it was.
Yeah, they got completely manhandled. So obviously the momentum in Minnesota right now is down like crazy.
Yeah, they lost a lot of momentum.
There's a fire going on in there.
Against such a good defense.
It's the Vikings offense right there.
Last week it was.
Pretty much.
Continue, Matt.
So he definitely did have a down week last week. You know, much more down compared to the rest of the season. And I love Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook's a great running back. I mean, one of the top in the league. But I think that he's due for another down game versus, you know, one of the best defenses in the league after such a terrible game against the Cowboys.
Yeah, and what you're saying that the Patriots just allowed 3 points. It was the Jets. Let's not get crazy. It was the Jets, so 3 poets is not amazing.
But the whole year they've just been
the Jets also had 2 inches like a play in
the second half.
In the second half,
The Jets have been living off of the run game, whether it was Breece Hall, Michael Carter, or James Robinson. Obviously Breece Hall's hurt, but Michael Carter and James Robinson played terrible. I think that Jets front, their interior guys are solid enough to run more than 2 inches a play.
The Patriots defense is just so good, which is why we should sit Dalvin Cook this week. Which I 100% agree with you, Matt. Now, mine is another running back, and we were talking about the Eagles earlier. Fantasy managers, you have to sit Miles Sanders. And we've kind of loved Miles Sanders. It's mixed.
Yeah.
It's a good year.
If
you're going 8-0, you're running back's going to have a good season.
He's not getting trashed like Amari Cooper, who had 20 points at halftime.
Yeah, that was a rough start.
That was my sit.
That was a rough sit, Victor. But he had 5 points against Indianapolis, which wasn't. It's not very good defense, especially with Shaq Leonard now.
No, I'm gonna disagree with you on that. The Colts front 4 is solid.
Yeah,
they have 2 of the best run stuffers in the NFL.
Their D line is very good, but the rest, like the linebacking core, the linebacking core and secondary is not that good. So seeing how this Eagles offense has been playing. First of all, against the Commanders, where they kind of got shut down.
Yeah.
And this past week, even against the Colts, I would say they got shut down until the last drive, into the fourth quarter, where they were down by 10. So that's a choke on the Colts side of the ball. And I think, Kenny Clark on this Packers D line.
That Packers front 7 is ridiculous. That's what's keeping them in games, I think.
Exactly, that's my point. So I think if they try to run the ball, he's not gonna get very far because he's had 50 or less. Like he had 54 yards against Washington and then 47 last week. So I think that's going to continue going down. And then also he's a zero factor in the passing game and in the receiving game. He had 1 target last week, another target against Washington, and then 0-0, 1, 2-2, 1, and 3. Like,
what are they using the receiver? Boston Scott, is he still
Boston Scott, I guess. So like,
I don't know. I don't know who they're receiving back.
He's a pure rusher, and he gets no work in the passing game, and I don't think he's gonna do well. Like I think you should sit him this week.
I think just what we're both saying for our sits is gonna be a low-scoring game between the Packers and the Eagles.
Hopefully,
sitting Aaron Rodgers.
Good defensive game. Good old football. That's good football right there. Guys, now before we end the show, I need to remind everyone before we get into our final thoughts.
We're not doing this.
Who's the champion? Can you see me?
No,
you can't see me. But I'm the champion because I won last week. Jamal Williams, great. 3 touchdowns. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 17, and then Michael Carter, who we talked about earlier, had 2 points. Now it was a very good attempt at beating the King, but the King's still here. He's here to rest. He's here to rest. Now, after that, I finished it. I finished it very quickly. Any thoughts going into week of Thanksgiving football?
I cannot wait to see the Dolphins take another win.
Same with me. I'm so excited to go 8-3. I haven't been able to say that for my entire life.
I'm excited for some Thanksgiving football, dude.
Me too.
We got 3 games on Thursday, and the rest of the games.
It does not get better than
this is the best time of the year, man. I love this. It's a holiday season. This is awesome.
It's great, and great football.
It's great to be winning games, boys.
It's great to be winning games. Well, that pretty much wraps up the show, guys, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Wolverine Nation, that's all for this week of Waiver Wire. I'm Jake Cameo.
I'm Victor Torres.
And I'm Matthew Barturin.
And all of us here from WBLN and the Belen community wish you a very happy Thanksgiving and hope you enjoy that meal because
got to grub this week.
Whatever you eat, enjoy it and be with your family. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you next Tuesday.